I'm going to go to Senator Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to ask some questions in relation to the Bridgewater Bridge in Tasmania. No surprise.
Bridgewater Bridge.
I do understand that the business case for the Bridgewater Bridge was provided to Infrastructure Australia in January. Can that be confirmed? And when it was provided, did it come with detailed costings, as a business case usually does?
So, Senator, Infrastructure Australia was on earlier, so that question may need to go on notice, but the department certainly has a copy of the draft business case.
You're saying it's a draft?
That's right.
So
most of the business cases I think we've been talking about are iterative, so we get a pretty good draft. It's enough to be able to make an assessment of ballpark costs, scope, understand the project reasonably well, but those business cases get finalised in interaction between us and with IA.
Okay, so it hasn't been finalised, the business case for the Bridgewater Bridge?
No,
is that correct?
It's in draft at this point,
but
it's well advanced.
It's a well advanced draft. Okay. Is it publicly available?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. So the draft was completed in January. Well, I understand it was submitted. And did the department receive it in January as well, or was that just IA?
I don't have the date at which we received it. I'm sorry, I'll have to take that on notice.
Okay. Well, the Minister in Tasmania, his press release was dated the 13th of January of when it was submitted to IA. So
it would be around that time. I just don't have it in my notes exactly the date, but we can certainly get that for you.
Okay.
But I can't speak for IA. Those questions will need to be put to IA.
Did this advanced draft business case come with detailed costings?
Yes, it did. And those costings will continue to be refined, but certainly enough for us to understand the project and its costs.
Okay, we'll get into that a bit more afterwards. What about planning work? Has there been detailed planning work done as part of that?
I wouldn't call the planning work detailed. Certainly this project has been one that the
Chair, I just can't hear.
Tasmanian Government has been aware of, that there's been a need for this project for a long time. It's a substantial funding commitment, as you'd be aware. So until the Tasmanian Government had certainty that the Australian Government would contribute 80% of the funds, which we are, they haven't advanced a detailed planning. They've done some preliminary planning, some, I think, geotech investigations. I'd have to get you the detail of that,
okay,
exactly what's been done.
That's fine. Is there any kind of time frame, though, around when that necessary detailed planning work will be completed or provided?
Bridgewater Bridge. I'm afraid I don't have all of that detail with me. I'd need to get that and confirm it with the state government as well.
All right, that can be taken on notice. Will any land resumptions be necessary as part of the completion of the project?
Again, because it's a bridge, the footprint of the bridge, which will be a new bridge, there'll be some land acquisition there, but I don't think it'll be a substantial land acquisition.
Okay, but is that commenced, that land acquisition?
Again, I would need to check with the Tasmanian Government.
So has the Tasmanian Government agreed to provide the balance of the required funding outside of the federal government's contribution? Certainly there's been discussions between the two governments on the funding and the expectation that the Tasmanian Government will fund 20% of the costs, but we haven't had detailed discussions about the exact phasing of that funding. And as far as I'm aware, that is not yet in the Tasmanian budget. Sorry, Senator Colbeck? They said they would fund the 20%.
Has the Tasmanian Government submitted a project proposal,
Not yet, Senator.
or given some time frame as to when they will provide a project proposal?
I think the key thing is to get the business case finalised to IA for an assessment, and then the project proposal report would come on the back of that document.
So, Senator, if I may, just in terms of these projects, and I know you're keen to move quickly, Senator, the standard process for these is to, for these kind of long-term projects, is to identify early the priority, and it is building on work from IA and network analysis has been done within the department. So the intention of the government's 10-year pipeline that they've laid out is to essentially set the priorities for the next 10 years around long-term infrastructure projects, so that when current projects come off and finish their work, there is a pipeline ready to go to the future. And what the standard process would be is there's the early commitment of funding, usually supported by a preliminary business case that is then finalised. That business case would then see the state government engage in more detailed planning around things like land acquisition and so on, and then, having gone through that process, bring forward a project proposal to us, which for assessment to ensure that the project delivers on the intention of the funding, and then that would be approved by the Minister. So in all of these projects that we're stepping through, the intention is very much to mark it out as a priority, give funding certainty to the state and to the private sector that the government is committed to these projects, and to really instil and drive the planning work that's been discussed here tonight. But it's not at all unusual that these sort of projects would not yet have a detailed project proposal report or a finalised business case at this stage of the process. It's really about setting that long-term pipeline and encouraging that work to be done as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Yemen. I appreciate the kind of flow, I can visualise the flow chart that you've just described to us, but you can understand that in Tasmania, the community have been waiting for this redeveloped bridge for a very long time, and they are asking for answers. And now that we've got some costings in the federal government budget, we're trying to see exactly when that future bridge is going to, eventuate, and what it's going to look like. And it's difficult to get an answer tonight on those fairly basic questions, because, and not through the fault of Ms Leaning, but it seems to be, there is some kind of inertia going on here, whether it's at the Tasmanian state government level or the federal government level or both, as to when the draft business case is going to be completed, so that we can have a project proposal, so that we can have that the land resumptions that are necessary, and all of those other things that you've just described very well in that flowchart example. So it's just a little bit frustrating when we just don't have answers. And I've asked these questions before here in estimates about the Bridgewater Bridge, and I hope that I don't have to come back later this year and ask the same questions again, because that inertia, hasn't, we've still got that inertia that's there.
So I understand that frustration, Senator. I think the business case the business case is in the process of being finalised, and we would expect it to be finalised later this year, and that will then set up those further steps that we discussed from that point, given there is now a firm funding commitment.
Well, no, because I haven't finished, and then you can do your questions.
Directly relevant.
Oh, yeah, I've got some more Bridgewater Bridge follow-on questions myself.
Deputy Chair,
I would encourage, Senator Singh's only going to ask questions around the Bridgewater Bridge, and then if I can come to you.
well, that was what it was going to be about the Bridgewater Bridge.
Now, can I just confirm that the federal dollars that will be required to deliver this project is 461 million? Is that correct?
That's our commitment.
And is that the 80% required to deliver?
That's correct.
And what is the time frame for that payment?
I just need to go to a different page.
I presume there'll be different tranches of payments. So firstly, I obviously would like to know if the first payment has been made or when it will be. Is there any kind of payment timeline?
Payments will be made against milestones that we're currently negotiating with the Tasmanian Government.
Yeah, so I'm asking when it's going to be.
So would you like me to give you the profile of the funding as it's currently profiled in the budget?
Does that include a time frame?
It gives you an idea about a time frame. With a project of this scale, it's going to take a couple of years to do the environmental assessments and the full design. So the profile reflects that. There is funding of 5 million in 2018-19, followed by 25 million in 2019-20, followed by 30 million in 2020-21, followed by 40 million in 2021-22. I'm just hoping I'm reading down the right line. And then, so that's a total of 100 million over the forward estimates, and the remainder funding after the forward estimates, and that reflects what we think is probably going to be the case for the planning, the design, the environmental assessments, the land acquisition, all the things that have to happen before you start building a bridge.
So that's our best understanding at this point in time, and then through discussions with the states and the formalisation of the business case, we'll firm those figures up over time and then move into the procurement phase.
Thank you. Ms Lemmy, is that funding breakdown in the budget papers?
No, that's
so you've just provided
additional
that to us.
detail that I've provided to
thank
give
you
you
for
an
that.
idea about how the scope of the project would
Thank you
roll
for that.
out.
So just finally, I understand that, you know, that the various stages that you've described that need to be completed, and a lot of it's on you're waiting for the state government to come forward with that, and understanding they only finally got their act together to provide a draft business case in January this year. When will, or when is the kind of projected scheduled project completion?
So I would prefer to take that on notice, Senator, and consult with the state government and get you an accurate or more accurate answer than
Right.
I
Is
can
there,
give
is
you,
there an
but-
approximate year even, let alone, we don't go into months, but is there an approximate year into the future so that the Tasmanian community can go, okay, the federal government committed this much money, there's a draft business case, and this is for a new bridge in what year?
We'll endeavour to get you that, Senator.